So we've got basically a 16-line chorus here. We've written 4 lines of melody. I think I want to write 4 more, and then for the second half of the chorus we'll just plug in these first 2 melodies, I guess you could say. Just kind of repeat, but it'll kind of overlap. There will be one melody and then another melody. Sometimes you call those themes. Theme A, theme B, and then back to theme A, and then finish with theme B for the chorus. But let's work on theme B. It's very fancy when you use fancy words, isn't it? It makes it way better. Alright, despite the darkness, you can choose to look towards the light. Again, I just stare at something and then, I don't know, a melody just kind of comes. Where does it come from? Is it from my innermost self? Sometimes called my spirit, my higher self, I don't know. Does it come outward from the universe? Am I connected to the entire universe? I don't know. I don't know how that stuff works, but just try to explain so that when you attempt to put some words to music, to come up with a melody to sing, you can kind of feel free to just go with whatever pops into your head, because that's what I do. All right. Despite the darkness, you can choose. Kind of needs to roll from whatever this is. Do I remember what this is? I'm thinking 4-chord. As I've said, when a melody pops into my head, there's always a kind of bass note beneath it, and just because I've trained my ear, I can figure out which chord in the scale that is. This is the 4th. If we're going to do in the key of G, A, B, C, D, F, G, it starts over, doesn't it? But in our scale, the first note's G, right? So it's G, G, A, B, C. This will be a C chord, the 4-chord. Or if you just want to forget chords and just do a bass note. Our main bass note in this key is G, right? But we're going to use the 1/4 up, which is G. What comes after? Or no, what did I just say? G, A, B, C is C. What's the 5-chord? What comes after C? A, B, C, D, right? So the D chord is your 5-chord. We're also going to use the 6th chord. What comes after D? E. See how that works? Music theory is just kind of math. There's just little rules that you look at, and you can kind of discover a lot of those for yourself, really. But I like to try to throw stuff in. So I'm on the 1 note, the root note. In other words, it'll end up being a G. But I write everything in C, so this is going to be C. this fits together okay. Let's just put a little rest measure in here, right? Trying to figure out what the rhythm is I've got in my head so I write it down correctly. One and dun, 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 dun. So it'll be, despite the darkness you can choose. Despite the darkness you can choose. Or despite the darkness you can choose. Which do I like better? Despite 2, 3, 4. Despite the darkness you can choose. So there's that, or there's 2, 3, 4. Despite the darkness you can choose. Let's do the former. Who gets 4 cats? I ask you that. Weird old cat ladies. Am I a weird old cat lady? I guess that's what that makes me, since I have 4 cats. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Okay, my rhythm's wrong here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I just have to tie something over. So each measure gets 4 beats, right? And that's it. Again with the math, right? Music theory, math. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Same thing here. So, you know how, like in some algebra, you have an equal sign, right? So, in a given algebraic equation, they hand you the problem, and the problem is the left side is not equal to the right side. Whatever's on the left side of the equal sign is not equal to what's on the right side. So you got to fix that, right? That's what I just did here. This was almost an algebraic thing that I just did. Except in our equation, our kind of standing musical equation is, in this case, since this is 4 beats per measure, it's 4 equals 4 equals 4 equals 4 equals 4 ad infinitum. Each measure is equal. So you've got these little chunks, right? Think of it as each measure is a pie, and most commonly you're going to cut it into 4 pieces. That's 4 notes that you could put, and each one is equal. That's the beat. That's your 4 pieces of pie. 1, 16, you can cut it into 32. Usually, I think that's the smallest note I've ever seen, except for once in a great while, a little something comes up that's ridiculous. It's like one note, or what? Don't even worry about that. But you can do 32nd notes, 16th notes, 8th notes, and then quarter notes. And so that's kind of what we're doing, but mostly you don't just have the 4. Sometimes you only have one note. It's the whole pie for that measure. But most commonly you've got several different sizes of pieces of pie, right? So you've got, like in this, I've got a quarter size piece, and then an 1/8 size piece, and then a 3/8 size piece. Blow your mind, right? And then a couple of 1/8 size pieces. So if you added that up, if you're listening, that's a total. That's a whole pie. You've got a piece that's a quarter of the pie. You've got a piece that's an 1/8 of the pie. You've got a piece that's 3/8 of the pie. And then you've got a couple pieces that are 1/8 of the pie. Because, I don't know when's the last time you had a pie, but I always like to have a really big piece. But some people, just give me a sliver. So that's someone who's only going to have a 16th or something. 16th note. Does that make any sense at all? Don't worry about it if it doesn't. I'm just kind of explaining what I'm writing down here. The reason it came up is you see those little arcs above the staff? I had written all that stuff differently, but then when I went back to...
I'm not sure who's speaking, but you're in Jennifer's account. To teach me to recognize your voice, just say, learn my voice.
It's disturbing, isn't it? I went to write those vertical lines to divide up my measures, and I went, oh, look at that. I've got... It's like I had a whole pie, and I took an 1/8 of a piece of another pie and kind of just set it on top of the whole pie. That looks weird, doesn't it? That's more than a whole pie. So I realized that, so I had to fix that. Push that into the next pie. Alright, that's enough of that. Right in the words, I guess. Despite the darkness, you can choose. I like that. Despite the darkness, you can choose. So this is one of those lines that instead of two distinct phrases, you've got a phrase that's kind of long that stretches into 2 lines, 2 phrases, where 2 phrases would normally take up that space. We've made kind of one phrase that's really long. That keeps happening in my lyrics. I don't really do that on purpose, but I don't really mind when I do it. It just makes it weird. And in this case, we've taken approximately 2/3 of our lyrics. So we've got the equivalent of 2 lines, right? We've just created a melodic phrase out of 2/3 of our lyrics for this particular chunk of lyrics that we're working with. Now we've only got 1/3 left, so it's kind of weird. I have a little bit of a compulsion to have everything in vaguely equal chunks, right? Oh, I won't be able to do that this time. Lay the compulsion aside and keep getting stuff under my paper. So now we have to create a melodic line that's shorter than this line is, right? But mathematically it doesn't have to be shorter, because we can just have some blank spaces in our music where there'll just be some strumming on the guitar. There won't be any sung melody or words for a minute, and that's a common thing that we've had in these songs. Right? So it's not a big deal, but it's just a little bit different. Because all we have to work with right now is to look towards the light. Despite the darkness, you can choose. That's 8 syllables. To look towards the light. That's 6. So that's a total of 14. 8, 14. So if you divide that in half, that's 4/7. Is that a little bit more than 2/3? A little bit less than 2/3? Fractions are hard. Anyway, that's what I'm saying. Sometimes they meow when they're wrestling. It's really fun. Tiny kitties. This is the rhythm I want. Wow. Keep it down, kids. Sometimes the big cats get involved, and it's amazing. It's like running up against a brick wall or something because they're so much bigger. It's pretty funny. It's like if I tried to wrestle Andre the Giant. That's going to go well for me. Into my head. It's not the sexiest thing I've ever written, but I think it'll work. To look towards the light. So there'll be a pause here. 2, 3, 4. Despite the darkness, you can choose to look towards the light. That's how it's going to go. Kind of the same rhythm, but I don't think that's so bad. One and 2 and 3 and 4 and another thing that obviously can happen. Towards the light. Like Brian May said, you don't create inside a vacuum. Every song you've ever heard, especially the ones you really learn to love, all that's going to influence what you write, both your words and your sung melody and everything you do, the accompaniment on the guitar, or if you decide to do some really cool counter melodies and riffs and the rhythm that your drums are going to do if you take it that far, your bass line, all of it. So it's as if you you're a sponge, you've sucked all of that in, so maybe you're chock full of that. So if you sit down and try to express yourself, some of that stuff in your sponge will come out. And so I really don't think it's much cause for alarm if you're writing something that kind of sounds like something somebody wrote before. I think as long as you don't do it on purpose, or if you catch yourself and you're like, oh yeah, let's vary that a little bit because I don't want to just copy that person. But this is a vaguely familiar melody to me, but it's just what came out, so I'm not going to worry about it. Up here, we did our first two lines, and then we kind of plugged in the next two lines to the same melody. For whatever reason, I don't feel like doing that here. I want a unique melody for these last two lines. That's what it's going to be. Let's extend that to just remember. Writing in my chords. That's what the chord progression feels like to me. So this is something I really love to do. I love this this will actually be a G add 9 chord. Then there'll be a G chord under this. Or no. Yeah, G chord. I get so confused because I'm writing in the key. I'm annotating in the key of C, but I know that I'll play this in the key of G on the guitar, so it's mind-blowing. So let's keep it in the key of C. In the key of C, you've got the first, third, and fifth note of the scale that make the C chord, right? Well, we're adding the D note. I kind of showed you that on the guitar once, but you'll notice it when I come back and sing this. That you've got this, if the bass note of the chord is C, and you're going to sing a D, that's the note right next to it, right? A, B, C, D. Those notes are almost as close together as you can get. You could do a C sharp, but anyway, so those notes kind of fight against each other, but we've all of us now heard that combination of notes often enough that we've kind of gotten used to it. It's not as bothersome. So I just really love it when it comes up because it's just a little different. In life, there are a lot of things that rub up against each other and cause irritation, right? So musically, I think it's kind of cool to represent that. perfectly correct the way you're supposed to write it, but the main thing is for me to remember what rhythm I want it. That's not right either. It's because it's syncopated. So that's not that, that's this. Don't worry about it. You heard me sing it, you know how it goes. I'm just writing it down so that I remember how it goes. Choose to just remember. So this will be to look towards the light. Choose to just remember. So how do we put the exclamation point on this? This is such a powerful line. Choose to just remember, dawn will always follow night. There's a line from a Christian religious song that I'm familiar with that the line is, it's about how at some point you realize the darkness was only the night. And look at that, the sun's coming up. A much more popular song is The Sun Will Come Up Tomorrow. So, I don't know. Sometimes the night lasts a lot longer than you think it's going to last, but eventually it dawns. I guess I'll write that in. The melody that's in my head is so conventional that I'm fighting against it, but okay, I'm in the wrong key. I wrote the notes in the wrong place. finalizing the rhythm here. I'm just debating back and forth how long to wait before I hit that note and that word dawn. I guess I'll wait a full count. Might finally have a half note here, a half a pie. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and dawn. One and two and three and four. And I believe that's how that goes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and yeah, that's it. So it'll be choose to just remember dawn will always follow night. Once again, that's going to be either extremely high or it'll be kind of low. In a perfect world, I would play it in the perfect key for my how high or how low my voice sounds best when I sing. Kind of my mid-range, but I'm limited by hard to read that clock. All right. What does that say? 35 minutes. So let's leave that for a sec. And what about these quote-unquote verses? They're going to be extremely short, so I'm gonna meander through the lyrics. Which is not something I'm used to doing. Our first line, offense is in the eye of the beholder. So hard for me to not just sing that basically at the speed that I would speak it, right? That's kind of how I roll. I've kind of got that melody on my mind. So maybe I should save this in the interest of making the verses really unique. I don't know. Is there a guarantee that they'll be significantly more unique if I wait. That's the thing. Any decision you make assumptions about the ramifications, but it's not really predictable and it's not really cut and dry like that. Offense is in the eye of the beholder. Yeah, I don't know that I'm feeling it. So for better or for worse, we'll come back and work on that. So you see if I can give you the entire melody of the first half of the chorus. I guess I can do that. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Like everyone, your life is hard, but you can choose. But you can. You can choose to smile. So that's. But you can choose to smile instead of hate. Use gratitude to steep. I can't read my own writing. That's 2 E's. 1, 2. To steep your heart. Keep your heart a while. And then this is today. 1, 2, 3, 4. Despite the darkness you can choose. No, despite the darkness you can choose to look towards the light. Wait, it continues, doesn't it? 2, 3. To look towards the light. Choose to just remember. I think that's right. Choose to just remember. Remember. Don't. Choose to just remember. Dawn will always follow that. Dawn will always follow night. I like it. Pretty cool. I'm curious now how that'll sound. And will never be in vain. That's how the very end will go, because we'll use that same melody. I like it, but I always like it. Maybe chiefly because it's new. right? Novelty. It's like a new toy on Christmas morning. But if you'll recall, in that last series of videos, I got towards the end and said, this melody's not that great. It wasn't new anymore. So I started to kind of freak out, and I started to write a new melody, but then I thought, ugh, too much work. Good enough as it was, so I left it. But I think I left the video intact too, because I think it's an important thing. And was it right or wrong? I'm not saying I was right to abandon the second melody that I wrote. Could have seen that through, and maybe it would be a better song, but who gets to define what's better? Each individual listener. I'm one of the listeners, even though I'm creating it, but each of us individually, subjectively decides, I really like that, or I don't like that so much, or I really hate that. Right? So it's not like it's a guarantee. We often talk ourselves into that old melody, that was crap. But really, it's not that bad. It's really repetitive, and that's a strange thing for me to accept, that much repetition, but I think if the first few times you like it, you don't hate it, you can kind of acquire the taste. Big cat playing with a little cat. You can kind of acquire the taste, and if you begin to acquire the taste of a certain melody or words or the entire song, then I think you begin to like it more and more. And eventually you really, really like it. You almost make it your own. You memorize it, and there's so many songs like Walking on Broken Glass. That song is so in my heart. It's my, I don't know if I've shared, but it's my wake-up song. Alexa over there, back in the bedroom. A minute before my normal alarm goes off, I hear the opening piano riff, and then the strings kick in for Walking on Broken Glass. And it's I've only been using that a couple of weeks, but it hasn't turned me against the song. That song is in my soul. So I think, at least for now, it definitely makes it easier for me to get up in the morning. That has to be one of the few songs that when I heard it the first time, I just said, this is awesome. Just loved it. And then I kept listening to it, and man, it's like falling in love with someone, and you get to know that someone, and not even necessarily romantically or sexually. You continue to get to know this person, and yeah, people aren't perfect. There are little disagreements or disappointments along the way, but as you get to know someone, that becomes an extremely close friend or a spouse or whatever, you kind of become one with that person. There's a real thing that's created there out of both of you, and that's kind of what music can be too. I guess it's a version of that same relationship, right? The creator of the song and you as the listener, you kind of come together in this, on the basis of this song, this melody and these lyrics and everything that surrounds that. I always put the lyrics and the sung melody at the middle. Some people don't, but sometimes there are songs obviously without lyrics. Joe Satriani, there are a couple of his songs that he sings, but mostly he's a guitar player, and he just writes an awesome melody and bunch of awesome music. It all goes together, and same thing though, you don't really necessarily need the lyrics. I just love the lyrics, and I think of them as central to everything I do, but that's just me. Alright, that's enough rambling. Silly kitties. Alright, so next time I think we'll just immediately jump into those verses. What did I say? Offense is in the eye of the beholder. Gotta come up with something kind of cool for that, but something that fills some space. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having a really short verse and then getting right back to our awesome chorus, but I just thought it'd be cool to kind of stretch them out a little bit so that it doesn't seem like we're just singing the chorus 3 times in a row without a break. I want there to be the break of the verses between each time we sing the chorus. Alright. Until the next time. Oh,